Cool. 3, 2, 1. Alev Kelter, welcome to the podcast. So good to see you.
Thank you. So good to be here.
And I'm very impressed. The microphone on screen, the setup is podcast worthy. What's going on?
Oh my gosh. I told my girlfriend that I was going to be on a podcast and she's like, oh my gosh, you need this. And the next day this was set up and I'm super thankful. She's been amazing support to me.
So did she purchase it? Has she gone out and bought this as a gift or?
Yeah, she works in research and UX research. And I think this was she's just one of those people that finds, things that will help you in anything in life and gifts them. So I think she bought this for me and here we are.
I love it. You sound good. It looks
thoughtful.
Great. So and you mentioned before, like a podcast is maybe something you could look to do yourself or get into.
Well, I think there's been a lot of amazing podcasts, you mentioned just going on runs and walks in the park, or whatever you want to do. And those podcasts are in your back pocket. And you inspired me to just talk about, kicking and get on here and open up about our lives. And I thought, that would be really cool to hear some amazing stories that have been shared with me or amazing people that I've met in my life and just to empower that and to share those stories, to give back. And I think that's something I would love to do. Yeah.
The one thing for me, I'm not the best reader and I'm not quick. It's always been something that I've struggled with. So if I go for like a run and listen to a podcast, I feel like I've finished a book. Whereas if I try to read a book, I read 3 pages and it takes me a year. So
absolutely. The 17 minutes to 17 hours is definitely chewable.
Yeah. Excited. Chloe Dalton, the Australian Sevens, I know you follow her and she's a kicker as well. She's just started one and her first one was gun. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that, no, but I need to reach out to her. I haven't seen her in a while, but she's a great friend of mine.
Yeah, she had Elliot Green on the first one. Really good. Chloe, up to you.
Oh, that would be pretty good to hear. I'm excited. I'll have to check that out.
The place that I want to start, so we can all probably, you know the movie Independence Day?
Yes.
Will Smith, one of my favorite movies growing up. But anyway, growing up, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. In New Zealand, it's not really a really clear pathway, but your dad and family is right into that world. So I want to hear like what that's like, and it's pretty amazing. It's cool.
That's a great question. So I have 2 dads. I have a biological father who was a stealth fighter pilot and an F-16 pilot. And
it sounds so cool already.
Yeah, and he fought in Desert Storm, and the stealth fighter is actually really cool. It was the first plane that could go under radar, and it didn't have any GPS signals and I'm like, my dad's gonna get on this. And he's like, oh, you botched it, Alev. No, so forgive me for that. But no, it's was it's obviously called the stealth fighter, and it could go undercover. And then they ended up retiring the aircraft in Area 51. And I was like, you flew into Area 51? Are there aliens? And anyway, so he said, it's confidential. You can't talk about it or else he'd have to kill me. So I didn't pry any further. But
so there actually is Area 51, because isn't that like the big, so there is, right? And and the other thing too is aliens. I've heard that you've seen an alien.
I have second thoughts about what I saw. It used to be maybe a couple months ago.
I want the details.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'll give you the details. All right. So I was in my backyard in Alaska. That's where I was raised. And I was, I think I was shoveling and for those people who, it's snowy in Alaska, not all the time. But it was a chore I had to do was shovel the back porch. And I remember shoveling and just getting the snow and over the porch to the backyard. And I looked up and there was this it looked like 3 helicopters flying together. And I was like, oh, that's a new plane I've never seen before, and fairly familiar with, Air Force planes, not super familiar with helicopters. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I looked and it got closer and closer and then just disappeared. And I thought there was no streamline. There was no it's going to circle around the house, then leave over the mountains. It just came into perspective. and then hovered and then stayed and then left.
Wow.
And I was like, maybe I blinked. I don't know what happened, but that's what I saw. And I was like, maybe 14 at the time.
Yeah.
But someone or something was checking in on Alaskans and what they were doing, and didn't see too much.
So how involved can family members get involved? Like when your dad's a fighter pilot, like I'd imagine they don't just give away ride-alongs, but
yeah, no, I mean with the stealth fighter and the F-22 and those planes, you can see the plane, not necessarily fly in the plane. You can jump in the cockpit
yeah,
but I think the biggest thing is probably just seeing them fly, go to the flight line and just watch them take off and land. But I think, and then my stepdad who raised me was a C-130 pilot, and a lot of pilots in our family.
What's a C-130?
They are cargo planes.
Yeah.
So they carry a lot of equipment to and from. And I think my brother had a mission in Thailand. I think there was a flood there, and his C-130s dropped in to save these elephants that were stranded. And he was like, saving lives one elephant at a time. And
Wow.
It's just a kind of ongoing joke in our family. Like, this is awesome what we're doing.
Holy moly! How do you get an elephant on a plane?
They're massive. These C-130s, they have I think they're like 6 engines. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but how do you get the elephant on the plane?
Oh, I have no idea. I imagine if they're stranded, they might be hungry. I mean, all of us are food motivated, aren't you? Like,
Holy moly! So cool. It must be amazing having sort of that within the family, and some of the footage that World Rugby's put out a little bit about your story, Alaska. It reminds me a lot of Queenstown, New Zealand. Not as much snow, but like just an amazing landscape. Must have been full of activities growing up on where your family live with your family.
Yeah, truly God's country. I mean, it's stunning. Everywhere you look, you just feel like you're in a photo. It's unreal, like just the ruggedness, and the people that live there they're just tough. And I always relate to the women that are there. It's just like there isn't this, you do this job and you do that job. It's like whoever gets the job done, at that time. You see people like, hunting and fishing and, four-wheeling, and it really is a massive playground. And,
that's
a lot of
very, very cool thing to live by, get the job done. Like if you see it, what a cool culture. How is things in America at the moment with the election, and how's all that within sort of the Sevens group as well? Like, is it talked about, or?
Yeah, no, we're taking Tuesday off to vote, and making sure that everyone has a voice, and it's definitely a privilege and a right for us, and we are beyond thankful for that. And what I'm excited to see our country stand up, fight for what's right, and I pray that we see that in the election and the polls. So if you're listening and you have an opportunity to vote, go vote, please. Generations next, counting on it.
Yeah, we've seen so much of it. So like I'm sure that it's always sort of televised in this part of the world, but we have seen so much of it recently. So and the message is always just vote. So we'll see what happens, just like you guys. I want to go into your sport side of things now, and we spoke, so we got in touch just to speak about some kicking stuff, and started the conversation. And I was really interested to hear about your ice hockey. So, and probably just the crossover and the feel. I know that the coach that maybe recruited you had an ice hockey background as well. And I'm sure he had some examples of, in rugby, it's just like this, or use this as a reference. So, the crossover, and tell me how that was helpful for your now rugby 7s and 15s.
Yeah, the beginning of that crossover from ice hockey and soccer to rugby actually started with the coach you're talking about, Rick Suggett. He was Canadian and a former ice hockey player and a CFL player, football player, and transitioned to rugby. And he saw that in hockey, there's a lot of, acceleration, stop, go, lateral movement. And I think you play a lot in threes in hockey, whether it's, 3 attackers rotating and cycling the puck in the corner to, checking players, using your shoulder to make contact in boys hockey. And in Alaska, there wasn't any girls hockey. So we played with the boys, and we learned how to put a shoulder in people. And we learned how to have, as a defenseman, you learn gap control, which is, the attacker's coming at you and you're, skating backwards. How am I going to use their body movement to manipulate this next hit? And a lot of that was translated to rugby.
Talk more about gap control. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So, as a defenseman for hockey, a lot of players are shifty and they use their hands, with the puck and it's flair and jazz and, tricks between your skates. But the one thing you look at is their shoulders and their hips. And, it's like the old Shakira, hips don't lie. It's true. And, if you're going to cross over in hockey, that's a time to close the gap because you're slowing down. And, if you're going to do a couple extra movements with the stick, that's a time to close the gap. It's a simple, like, if you're going to jump in the air and do a goose step, I'm going to close the gap. I'm not going to know where you're going to land, but at least I'm there. Yeah. And so it's that acceleration, that launch off the line to initiating that movement to getting to the point of contact. And that was, you do 1,000 trainings on, I'm going to throw this puck here in the corner. You guys are going to, fight in the corner. And then I'm going to throw this puck here and you're going to have to, you skate backwards and you meet her here and you work on your gap control. And I think that translated really well into, acceleration off the line and, not looking at, the dummy fakes or anything, just really looking at people's hips.
Yeah.
And it's true. If you do cross over, if you do turn your hips or step, turn backwards to pass or do these things, you have to slow down. And that moment is the situation. The time to initiate.
I'm imagining you skating backwards, which is already foreign for me because I've never
that's how they choose defenders and forwards in hockey. It's like, you're naturally born like gifted at skating backwards. Okay, you're a defenseman.
I don't know. But so you've got that backwards feeling. You're literally sliding backwards, but then in rugby sevens, we're telling you to get forward. So was that hard to kind of tell the body to get force going forward, or is that pretty easy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's moments where if you're skating backwards and they're taking the corner, you can use your hips as you're skating backwards to make a hip check, and to put your hips into their body. And so it's like everything that you're learning in rugby, it's almost like I was doing it backwards, with my hips and putting it into the thing. So now I just take it and flip it and say, all right, now I'm closing that angle. Okay, I know where my hips want to hit her or my shoulder wants to hit her. And then I pounce, and that alignment was easy, transition. Another thing is that you have to stop. If they are coming forward and they stop and turn around to pass, you have to stop all your momentum to accelerate forward again. And there's a lot of that in rugby where you're, getting back on sides, you're stopping, readjusting and accelerating. So
it's the way you're explaining this is ridiculous. I love it. When you in ice hockey hit someone, you talk about using your shoulders, stopping momentum. How is that coached in ice hockey?
You talked about just putting, like not a dagger, but just like putting your shoulder through somebody. And so a lot of people in soccer, they say when you're making a header, like you're ripping through a newspaper. And like, that's a similar thing is like, that you have a piece of paper and you want to rip through that piece of paper. The thing is that there's two kind of hits. There was the hip check that would basically like rub somebody out on the wall, or you'd like have a heart stopping check. And those were, I think, I'm not going to lie, those are my favorite. But you can get a good hit with the boards, too. So, but a lot of that has to do with, body control and doing that on skates and then initiating that contact. It's so different though in rugby, you have to wrap. And I think the first couple hits I made in rugby, I just got, yelled at, put in the sin bin, and like no wrap at all. Like in hockey, it's just like you have a stick in your hands. You there's nothing that you're wrapping.
Yeah.
So it's
One,
it's a little different and unique.
one thing that I have struggled with, because especially when you're coaching players, and sometimes you're really looking for players to enjoy that hit, go looking for it, being brave with their body, and it just doesn't come naturally to some people. It sounds like going through the ice hockey program you just wouldn't have survived unless you just stood your ground.
Absolutely. And these guys, it was awesome to be, hit puberty before the guys. Cause when you were younger and all of a sudden you're 2 feet taller than them and you're just creaming everyone out there. And all of a sudden like high school comes, and then these are your brothers that are like now skyrocketing past you and getting a taste of your own medicine. And it's just was humbling, but awesome. But yeah, you learned how to play fast, learned how to pass the puck and pass and move. And, isn't that what we do in rugby? So, it was a fun transition. I was always that.
I'm really interested. You mentioned about the working in threes, because I think it's such a common thing in sports, soccer, the triangle, basketball, triangle offense, and obviously ice hockey, sevens. There's quite often 3 girls involved in a play or a move or moving the ball to wood. So maybe just talk a little bit about that crossover and why that was so good for your game.
Yeah, there's every forward in hockey, learns how to cycle the puck. When you're not ready to make an attack on the net, you have to keep possession. And so the forward or the center will take the puck in the corner, and the 3, you basically create like a spiral in the corner, and you guys just keep rotating and rotating in the corner with the puck and keep possession until, the defense shows a weakness where you can accelerate into and then use a string of passes to make a shot on net. And for me, always looking at the 2 people ahead of me, or being, where's this puck cycling to, helped me say, okay, like it's not just one person alone with the ball, it's 3 or 4, and as a defenseman, I'm able to see from the blue line the forward cycling, and then I can decide whether I am an attacking defenseman, I jump into the play, or I hang out. What is it? So it's kind of cool too, like, jumping into that, like, sweeper fullback role, like you can see everything develop and use your communication to help with that cycle, with that connection of 3, with the attack on the net. It's extremely, it correlates well with rugby and the breakdown.
You must love going back and having a skate and just I don't know if you have pickup games of ice hockey.
Yeah, no, every Wednesday and Friday here, there's a beer league. And it's like old guys, old ex-hockey, pro players that play at like 10 o'clock to 11 at night. And it hasn't been going on since COVID, but it was just a moment to just like relax and reset and, stay active.
Yeah, compete, brush up on those skills. I love going down to the basketball court and just playing some. Yeah, it's just awesome to have that feel. So I've watched you play, and you're so organized in your thoughts when it comes to this stuff. You just, like, the detail you go into is amazing. But you've also got this killer instinct in you, and it's definitely there. Like, it's amazing to see you compete. You're there to win. You're just on.
Thank you.
Where did that come from?
I would attribute that. My first thought is to my twin sister. We grew up competing our whole life, and it was a healthy sense of competition, not I'm going to climb on you to pull you down kind of thing. It was, what do you need help with? What can I give you? And let's rise together. That mentality. And it was, we joke about it, like naturally I was more of the, like, God-given talents was athletics and being able to look at something and pick it up and do it athletically. And she was more, academically inclined. And we were together, this like superhuman. And so we really took that with us, that like together we were unstoppable, and pushing each other to the next limits. And even to an extent where like instant messenger came out. Yeah. And when we were younger, and I was like typing with 2 pointer fingers, and she's like, here, like, let's sit down and let's practice this. And she's like, okay, cool. Like, now come teach me how to do like a bicycle kick outside. I'd be like, okay. So like, we're going to go through this, like, and so breaking things down with each other and like unapologetically being able to be ourselves was something that I would say like translated to every aspect of my life, and just being authentic with someone who felt like it was a constant sleepover every night. You know, you're with your best friend, always plotting the next, you know, ruckus you're going to cause, and you know, your biggest, you know, planning your biggest dreams. Like, it just was really cool to have someone that you know, were a united front with.
You mentioned something at the start there, like, what do you need help with, and let's rise together. Like, that's massive. That's such a cool thing to live by.
Yeah, and I think I attribute that mentality to my mom, because she's the most positive woman you'll ever meet. Like, you'll hear her in the crowd, she'll be screaming like, "It's all about the hustle, ladies! Come on, let's go!" You know, and it'd be like the worst thing, and she transitions it to like a yes, let's go. And so I think that mentality that, like, you know, everything we do it with confidence, even if we might not know what we're doing, just try it, and be confident in trying it, you know?
Yeah, incredible.
So,
It's so good. Two things there. I'm actually a twin as well, so we have that.
no way! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so half
That's
an hour
awesome.
between us. Robbie's his name, Rob East. He'll be listening.
Are you older?
No, he's older. He's older by half an hour. So,
she's older by a minute, and she will never let me forget it.
Yeah, I was just
feel like you know how that is.
The second part of that is, okay, so you've got that great value system. Your girlfriend got you a mic set up for this podcast. Let's rise together. I love it. When people enter your life that aren't on that vibe, does that annoy the hell out of you?
No, I mean, explain that. What you mean, like that vibe. Like, if they're not, you know, willing to be authentic, or what? What were you?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in is the 5 people you sort of hang around the most is how you will be. So the saying is, if you hang around, exactly, you know what I'm talking about. So I can't imagine you let too many people into your inner circle that don't sort of live or stand by those values.
Oh, and I'm. It's interesting that you say that. Like, I had a coach asked me last week, who are the 10 most influential people in your life? And it was, you know, my family and my girlfriend and, you know, my teammates, and like all the people that I'm already around. And I necessarily would put them in a circle and say, these are the people, if you enter this, you have to have X, Y, Z. For me, it's like, I'm drawn to people who are authentic. I'm drawn to people who are trustworthy, who want to build themselves, and, you know, who aren't afraid to make mistakes and get up and go again. And for me, it's like, I don't think, I'm sure I've come across people who are just not on that wavelength. But the people who, you know, I wouldn't say stay, like, I'm the one joining people. I'm the one joining those folks. Everyone that I'm in a circle with, I'm the one that says like, oh, wow, like, I want to be like you. This is a perfect living example of leadership. Or, you know, you are just so honest and trustworthy. And I'm thinking like all these people that I'm mentioning are the girls that I work with day in and day out.
Yeah.
And those are my teammates that I'm like, I want to be the best version of myself because you inspire me to do that. Yeah. And I mean, that's what I would say, it's simple as that.
Yeah. What you're explaining is you can identify the people and then you really get drawn to them rather than anything else. So yeah.
Absolutely. Very, very I'm cool. Like, what is it that I'm drawn to? What do I love about you? Like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Cool. Like, let's be friends. I remember my friend Jackie, she was selling me a surfboard at Played Against Sports. And I loved her vibe. She was like, hey, there's a surfboard up here. I don't know if there's a tag on it. Climbs up the bike rack, looks at the tag for the surfboard. She says, oh, sorry, it's on hold, but let me check this other one. Climbs over to the other bike rack, gets up on there. And this whole experience, I was like, I want to be this girl's friend. She's awesome. And, but yeah, she was so sweet. She was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, here's my Instagram. And now we're like, we go surfing together. We skateboard together. It's hilarious. Like, little play dates together.
I'm sure that you've got performance. So you evaluate your performance. You look at that. I'm wondering whether put that to one side. I wonder whether you have something that you kind of live by, a value system, or just a way of, you might journal, write in a diary of saying, you know what, today I probably aren't the best version that I can be. Have you got any?
Exactly where that came from. It's my mom, Leyla Kelter. And it was an aspect of her life that I always combated. And it was, she'd come home, we'd all come home from school, and she'd say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how was the day? And it was everything, every ounce. Like, we'd jump in the car from practice, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how'd you do? So everything was rated. And I was like, oh my gosh, another question, another scale, like, get me out of here. And it wasn't until I was in college and, free from the family reign, like, I could start to think about subconsciously, wow, why was I doing that? What is this habit? What did this create? And I would always put things on a scale of 1 to 10. And it wasn't a percentage. It was just an 8, a 5. Or you're half-assed, you're a 2. You're like, here we are. And I think that became sort of not a mantra, but it shifted into, am I giving it my all?
Straight away, I want to ask a question about this. Did you allow yourself to say 10 every now and then? Because in my experience, some people can't do that.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, it was maybe a day where I was like, I built a tree fort and I stole some wood from the neighbor's yard and I didn't get caught, and that was a 10. Like, that was a 10. So, but when I got older and in this process of me reclaiming that nuisance kind of scale, I don't think I've ever given myself a 10. And we can have a long chat about that. And I'd be interested to hear your ideas on that. But yeah, no, I haven't yet given myself a 10.
Why haven't you given yourself a 10?
Because I think I'm holding out, Peter. And it's pretty apparent in some aspects of my life, but I think I'm afraid to fail in that regard, of saying, if I gave myself a 10, could I find something more? And it's this curiosity that, what is a 10? What would that even represent? Asking myself that. And I think before actually this conversation, before that, I was always like, yeah, there's something more. There's something more. And now I'm like, man, find the 10, dream the 10, be the 10. That would be pretty dope.
I listened to Johnny Wilkinson podcast, and they asked him the question. They always start with, what do you define high performance as? And he said,
gosh, gold medal standard. That's what we're at.
And he just explained, he said 100% attention to the moment, in the moment. And I thought that was so cool because there's no distraction. The preparation's been done, the work's been done. And I suppose that's probably where I go when I think about, like, have I nailed a day? Have I nailed the experience? Prep for something? And that's why I was interested about that. Are you giving yourself 10s? Because I'm sure people that watch you on the world circuit would say, wow, what a game. She just blitzed it. But for you, not giving yourself that 10 and the pat on the back.
It's interesting because I think there was so many scales that applied to different aspects of my life. Like, one was like, okay, this family, the Kelter name, what was that? And, and then it was practice and school and stuff. So have I given myself, now it's a holistic 10. Yeah. Are you doing self-care? Are you being the most present at practice? Are you engaging and enrolling people to be leaders in life? All of that is encompassing in that holistic scale now. And I think the perfect day is coming, but hasn't yet. And I think that my mindset wasn't ready to, proclaim it, declare it, and deliver it, And now I'm ready. I'm ready to do that. So that's exciting to hear that.
You mentioned there's self-care. So you're on the quest for this 10 and high performance. What
I would say that lacks, that's the hardest one for me. And I'm always looking at others and giving to others. And I think that is maybe it's the codependency of a twin mentality.
Yeah.
And you probably can relate a little bit to this, but I shared my whole life, and if there's something I'm eating that's delicious, I look to the person next to me and be like, you want some? Like, enjoy this with me. And when really it's like, grow yourself, heal yourself, love yourself, so then you can in turn empower and give to others. And that aspect was missing in my youth, and that aspect was missing in my college years. And being the best teammate is also being the best version of myself, which is taking care of myself. And that was when that connected and clicked for me, which has been recent. I really am trying hard to take care of myself and grow myself and believe in myself that I am worthy, I am capable. Yeah. I am disciplined and committed. This is who I am.
Yeah. So. Two questions. So when was the last time that you kind of hit a low of recent times?
A low?
Like you're talking about just sort of not feeling that good vibe and being proud of sort of the effort you're putting in. Like, was there a recent time where you weren't looking after yourself? And
Absolutely. I was on we drove. It was during COVID, and we drove to Montana to see one of our teammates. Nicole Haverland lives in Montana, and we were out to go fishing and camping and, just enjoy the mountains. And Ari was, excited to see her family. Her parents flew out from New York. And we're doing a road trip around Montana. And I just remember, they went off to Sandpoint, Idaho to, have a family retreat-ish thing where they were going to, have a cabin on the lake. And I went out to camp in, I think it's Iron Horse. And I just remember my truck had this check engine light on. I was low on gas. I didn't have any service or cell reception to connect with Nicole. And I was like, excuse my language, like, F it. I'm going
swear
camping.
On the podcast.
I'm doing it. And I just remember, driving into the back of these woods and being like, this is where I'm going to camp. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out of the car. I'm going to hike. I'm going to do all these things. And it was completely irresponsible on a part where it's like, don't know if my truck can make it. Definitely don't have enough gas. If I get injured, like, nobody's out to help me. But it was like adventurous. It was, exhilarating. It was exciting. And, I kind of just said, like, whatever. And that I remember getting out of the car, stepping onto this like embankment that was leading down to this beautiful, like, serene lake. And I see this snake, and I'm like, whoa, that's weird. And I like keep going down this path, and I see another like snake and another one. I look back up up where my truck is, and there are 20 snakes along this path. And I was like, I am deathly scared of snakes. I was like, literally closed my eyes, and I sprinted back up the hill, and I got in my car, and I just like had a mental breakdown, like sobbed. I was like, I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to go back, like all this stuff. And turned around, and I just like drove back. I found some people camped there. The next day, there was the sheriff out looking for me. The Nicole was besides herself. Her parents were out looking for me. Everyone was out looking for me. And it was like, I told, I would call people when I was back safely, and I like didn't come back. And it was just like, that alone was like a moment of like, what are you doing to take care of yourself? What are you doing to make sure that like you're, being responsible with others and their time? And yeah, so I mean, that was maybe like a couple months ago where I was just like out to have an adventure, out to be fun, and turned out to be a catastrophe. But I'm happy that that happened, because it gave me perspective,
Gave you a good jolt, because it sounds like you weren't even aware of any warning signs if you put yourself in that
100%.
situation. Yeah.
I mean, how many times in life have you seen red flag, red flag, red flag, and you almost have two middle fingers up going, thank you, thank you, thank you.
20 snakes on a freaking path.
Yeah, and I don't even know what kind they were. If there's even like 20 snakes in this national park, like no, they were all there. It was so scary, so crazy, but so real. That was like, you're not like, you should like go back.
And then a UFO came over the hill.
Oh yeah. So here we are. Hyperbolizing. Okay, I get you. Yeah. Also, a part of being a twin is storytelling. You have to convince your parents which one was right.
Right. It's the gift. Wow. A lot of ways we could go down there, but I think the cool thing is the work in progress, the learning, the red flags, being aware of it, and everything sort of happens for a reason. I was chasing my rugby dream goal like you wouldn't believe. Like that's all I wanted in life. I was totally obsessed, and I didn't manage to crack it. I didn't make the team that I was trying to crack. You had a pretty significant one where you missed out on the USA ice hockey team you were going for, and I can imagine that was big and a big moment of disappointment. So what was that like at the time? And now looking back now, why was that the best thing that ever happened to you?
Yeah, this question is great because I think it really shows transformation. And I played hockey in Alaska since I was 6 years old until I was 18, 19.
And we're freaking good at it, by the way. Just
yeah, I played Division I ice hockey at the University of Wisconsin-Madison under Mark Johnson, who, if you've seen the movie Miracle, is the game-winning goal, and they beat the Soviets in overtime. And he was our coach. He's a phenomenal coach. Big shout out to Mark and Paula, who pushed me in college and put up with my crap and helped me be a better human. But I was trying out for the Olympic team for Sochi in 2014. And there was a December camp that they would choose who would go residency from there, and I didn't make the residency program, and that was a year out from the Olympics. So to a lot of folks it wasn't like, oh, last cut, devastating, and they go off and play in the Olympics. It's a long process of playing on the youth development teams, playing in Olympic training camps, being in and out of Lake Placid, and in my mind, in my dream, I had this lofty goal that I would play ice hockey Olympics, and then I'd turn around and play in the soccer Olympics, and the sky's the limit. And as a teenager, why not? And as an adult right now, why not? Like, dream big. And for me, I had never fallen until that point, and it would have been breaking through roadblocks, breaking through things that were thrown my way. But this was devastating. Peter, I can't tell you like the amount of like pressure I put on myself to make that team, and what I had learned.
Where did the brain go straight away?
Failure. I failed everyone around me. And it was, the 4 a.m. hockey practice my mom would drive me to, the thousands of dollars that my parents put, into ice hockey, which is a pretty expensive sport. The time I spent away from school, training and getting scouted. It just felt like every one of those people that helped me along my way, I had failed. And I remember going back to Alaska and snowboarding, Alyeska, and I think some people have heard the story, but it was a fresh powder day, and it was a day without my twin sister, which on the mountains is unheard of. You always snowboard with your twin, and I was without her and by myself again, similar to this Montana story. Like, I'm gonna just enjoy myself. I'm gonna snowboard this mountain with abandon, and I'm gonna hit every backflip I can imagine. Like I can hit. Like, I'm gonna imagine it and I'm gonna do it. And I remember the first time I tried the backflip off this like semi cliff into fresh powder, of course, I landed flat on my face, like just ate it, whitewashed. And I just laid there. Like, I did not want to get up. And that's honest truth. Like, that's where my mind was. Like, it's going to snow in a couple more days. Nobody's going to find me. Like pretty clear that like, some like deep, dark thoughts had set place. And it was a thought of Daria, my twin. Like she probably would have landed that backflip, been at the gondola, back up and been like, Alev, what's up, man? Like, come on. Yeah. And I think that's when I started to think, like I had this beautiful epiphany, like, yeah, she always said like, she beat me out of the womb. She's the winner. She's that. But like in that moment, I was always like, okay, Daria, like we could control that. Like you could control winning that. Like, no way. So I always thought like, that doesn't matter, Daria. Like who came out first or second, that doesn't make me less of a human because I came out second from the womb. Like, come on. Like that was my talk to myself. And I just, from that moment of seeing Daria like land that backflip in my mind to that transition of, wow, like I couldn't control that. I'm no less of a human because of that. No. And that's when I was like, you know what, you've got a lot of life to continue to try for that. Yes. Like get your ass back up, get down to the, lodge and warm up. Like, I think at that point I was like slightly minor, like frostbite on my fingers and, like self-sabotaging a little bit. And
yeah.
I got down to the lodge and actually this is crazy, but to speak of Rick before this is pretty cool. But that's the day at that lodge is when I got the first phone call from Rick Sugget, leaving me a voicemail asking if I was interested in rugby. And like, you can call it providential, you can call it a life of abundance, you can call it, here we are, like everything happens for a reason, whatever faith. But yeah, there was definitely some ups and downs that day and some really amazing things in store.
Self-sabotage definitely sounds like it's the theme. And at the start of this podcast, you kind of mentioned people going surfing, mates, skating, doing things, sharing food. It seems like when you get in a low, you just take yourself on an adventure and surround yourself with 20 snakes.
Yeah.
So, have you got better at that as a warning sign?
Say it again.
Have you got better at that as a warning sign? That
absolutely. I mean, coming back to like my why, right? Coming back to why I do the things I do. Why am I in this, constantly pressure performance environment? What am I doing? Questioning that, and actually COVID has helped tremendously in helping me zone in on that macro or that micro of why. If the Olympics don't happen, if this gets canceled, if there's no other time you play rugby again, like what's your purpose? And I think that has been, defining my purpose and figuring out why I'm on this earth and why I'm able to snowboard and why I'm privileged to live the life I am, has helped me stay grounded and pulled me out of those dark places, saying like, there's a lot of people, Alev, that you need to inspire. There's a lot of people and leaders and young generations for you to teach and lead. Like you can't, get out of your head. Like, let's go, come back, So yeah, I think defining that purpose has helped tremendously.
I'm pleased that you expanded on that. So that defining your purpose, I'm just interested to see how you've organized that. Have you just documented that, written in a book, or?
Oh my gosh. Most recently, I took a leadership class and they surrounded me and, and in their own way, asked me in a very like unique setting, what do you want? And, it's crazy to think where our minds go about if money wasn't an issue, if, all these obstacles we put in our way, all these roadblocks, barriers, if those weren't an issue, like what would you want? And having the freedom to have that imagination to dream, which is every day, that alone was so helpful in figuring out my purpose and figuring out, who I'm drawn to, who's drawn to me, why, and yeah, it's journaled, it's been journaled. Also, those journals have been thrown away, burned, it's like, there's been this new fresh start, and I'd say that happens every big accomplishment or big roadblock, whatever it is that's holding me back from being truly authentic, truly honest, there's a pivot,
Yeah.
And so every time at those moments, it's good to stop and ask, what is it that you want?
I love it. And it's great that you're at that place now where you sort of are really starting to see the benefits and having all that organized and what's important. I want to get into...
tell you one, though, a confession to make. I'm extremely disorganized. And Daria, my twin, my dad, were so good at time management. I was like, this is my MO. Spread yourself as thin as possible. Say yes to everyone and don't take care of yourself. So I have to say, like, that looks like on the surface that, I've got my crap together. But it's extremely hard to stay organized and to stay committed and to stay disciplined. And, my team is like the number one supporter. People always ask, oh, who's the one forgetting their wallet on tour? Like, who's doing this? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And these girls are my saviors in a lot of that organization, a lot of that holding me accountable. You're late to the Zoom call. What's going on? Why are you, first asking me, are you okay? How can I help? What do you want? Right. And so it's really good to have a tribe behind you. But I'd say you said that so beautifully, and I was like, yes, I love that. But however, there's a lot of people that are...
This is the last sort of thing on this point, and then I want to get into skill acquisition and your passing, your stepping, your kicking, because I know people would love to learn from that. But Have you heard of organized lanes of frustration?
I've heard of the term "stay in your lane." I'm not sure if I've heard of what you're talking about.
Yeah, so stay in your lane is probably more for me. That's like do what you're good at and stay in your lane. And then I've actually got a tattoo that means stay in your lane. So there you go.
That's awesome.
So love it. Organized lanes of frustration. So basically what it is deciding what area, one or two areas in your life you allow yourself to get frustrated in. So for me, it's with rugby bricks. So if anything is not going well, the people in our team aren't executing, we're missing targets, like I can get frustrated, pissed off, like I'm like, this is the thing I care about the most. I'm going to get frustrated. But instead of having 100 lanes of frustration, so my back hurts, my neck's stiff, my posture's poor, like my coffee's too cold, like you could have so many lanes that you could get frustrated in. So I reckon, for you're clearly so focused on your sport and your rugby and your athletic ability and performing that maybe you've kind of organized it that way, and the other stuff that you're disorganized, which is maybe just lanes that you're just not that phased about.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really beautiful way of putting it. Organized lanes of frustration, giving permission to not be perfect, and then, if it's not perfect, it's not saying, oh, well, that's in my lane of frustration, I can continue to, get down or harp on that lane. It's like, it's an effort to, to make it enjoyable. Like, I feel like for me, that lane is rugby is definitely one of those lanes. It's if I'm not constantly being pushed or being frustrated, I'm not growing. And so I think that's one of them. And then, I found it had been hard, like, not seeing family for a while and being frustrated about how I connect with people. I love physical connection, and my love language is touch. And so it's been really, COVID has been extremely taxing on not being able to hug people, not being able to connect with people. And I think that lane of frustration for me, that's really present has been, in my relationships. And Ari is someone that's extremely disciplined and, comes from a dancing background where, your body and movement, speak so many words. And for me to, take this like gregarious, magnanimous heart and just like kind of bottle it up has been so hard. And then I'm learning, but that in itself, that frustration, that ability to express that like you say, like freely, it kind of gives me a moment to say, yeah, you know what, that's cool, because it's that lane has driven me to learn different tactics, to reach other people, to engage in people that may never have given me a hug, but now they have an opportunity to be in my circle because, I'm able to see them in a different light. I'm able to chat with them, where I wouldn't have previously, and it's also, given me confidence to not wait until COVID's over, to start potentially business planning, or to start, leadership training, or to really focus on myself. Even though that has come and bubbled up from those lanes of frustration. But I think that it would be nice to try to think about designating, those lanes to being frustrated. But like, my body, I feel like my body, like where I live, like, I don't know, driving, like all these things, like all of it has come to me as like, if there's a frustration that bubbles up, it's how can I transition or my perspective to making it a positive aspect, positive outlook.
Exactly.
And that's like choosing kindness over being right, choosing positivity. Those are the things that, has helped me say yes to pivoting and shifting my mindset.
Yeah. Fantastic. You mentioned there as well your love language is touch, which is very, very cool. So you obviously, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but we're going to get into the other stuff. Do you want to grab a glass of water? Grab a
I
glass
would
of
love
water,
that.
and then we'll continue on with the skill stuff. So
Yeah.
take 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm really proud of this brand new product. What we've done is we've made a Rugby Bricks 10 pillars of goal kicking diary. What we've done is we've gone through, we've outlined obviously the 10 pillars of goal kicking 1 through 10. We've put resource pages, field maps, and also put in empty pages for you to add notes, put whatever you want in there, thoughts and ideas or meetings that you have around your goal kicking technique. For me, having a diary was a really good way to problem solve on the field. When you have a goal kicking session, you document it, you put down what you've learned from that session. It doesn't have to be much, the date, the time, the place, and what happened in that session. It organises your thoughts, and when the pressure comes on the field, you maybe miss a kick, you've got quick fixes and quick ways of problem solving that you can adapt and adjust. So again, I'm super proud of the information that's gone into this book, the 10 pillars, the knowledge. This thing's going to be really special. These are available from the Rugby Bricks website. I know you guys are going to love this one.
Do you need me to turn a light on, or is this good still?
That's all good.
Cool. Thank you.
Happy days.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Let's jump back into it. So you grew up with a hockey stick. Do you call it a hockey stick?
Yeah.
Good. Nailed it. A hockey stick and a puck on ice. And then you have to pick up a rugby ball. Now, I work with rugby skills coaching. I teach people to pass. It takes hours and hours and reps to get things right. And then I watch you play, and you're just throwing 12, 15 meter cutout passes left and right hand, no worries. How did you develop that skill? Because it takes so long.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I'm just rolling through my head, like what did I do in 2014? In March 2014, when it was actually January, but what did I do at that first rugby camp?
Mm-hmm.
Like having first touched a rugby ball, what was I doing? And it was 4 girls, from the team that were in a line, and they were like, okay, here's your hands in a W. And just like very detailed and specific on how to hold the ball. And then they were like, listen, this is how you can do it. This is a spin pass. This is a conventional pass. And I just remember like trying to be a sponge. And then one person was like, I think it was Jill Potter. She was like, it just needs to get to point A to point B. I don't care how it gets there. And that to me, I was like, okay, like that alone, I was like, I can do that today.
Yes.
And then the next day I was like, all right, well, what? And then this is like kind of the transition of it was, it just needs to get to point A to point B. And then if that's successful, then you can learn some other, parts of the game. But the first part for me was I realized I wasn't going to be involved in any of the sessions if I couldn't pass. And very good, like decent runner, like natural sidestep. But if I can't pass, like I'm not going to be on that field. And so I realized like, okay, like there wasn't, I know that there, like Jill was saying, like it needs to be functional for this practice. But in my mind, I was thinking, okay, cool. Like that gave me permission to participate.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, in every aspect, I don't just want to participate. Like I want to like perform and give something. And what I realized at that point of the team is, they were so excited to give me every ounce of information. Like it was a true gift and like of selflessness. It was like fully knowing that I might come in and take their spot and make an Olympic debut. They sat there, turned around and gave me like all this information, all this knowledge. And that was inspiring. So I wanted to be the best version of me because these women were holding and living that standard. And not only were they being selfless, they were also like out there every morning or in the afternoon without a coach, without Rick Suggett down their shoulder, like working hard. And I thought, wow, that to me was inspiring. That to me is something I want to be around. And it inspired me and encouraged me to be a part of these drills, not only be a part of, but to bring something, that I thought, which was, athleticism or, a unique perspective or, a little bit of like a mixture between hockey and soccer to this like rugby game.
Yeah.
And it also, said like, I knew I wanted to be a kicker, like, and we'll talk about that, but I knew I wanted to be like a rugby kicker. And I knew we didn't have one on the team at the time as like a specialist, like just kicked. And I thought, well, if I'm going to want to be kicking, I have to be on the field. and it was just like very simple. Like if I'm going to be on that field, I'm going to need to learn how to pass. And then I just I broke it into groups. I was like, for 3 months, I just focused on passing. And then I let kicking like on the wayside. And then it was like the next one was just the next couple of months was just the contact, which I realized I had been used to, but not the technique of it was so different.
Yeah.
And then the last part and what's like so exciting was like when all those were proficient and I could actually like start to play the game, then I dipped into like things that I was extremely passionate about, which was like kicking and, tricks and just like falling back in love with it because there was already, I used that momentum and that like, excitement from just like learning a new thing, like learning a new sport, like learning new people's, tendencies and being around new people, like to kickstart, this, performance standard. I didn't start with, the mediocrity. Like I was the first introduced at the Olympic Training Center with those girls. And so it was already like, if you want to participate, you have to be here. And that inspired me to rise and to really pursue perfection.
The message I always try to push as well is just how many reps, how many hours it takes. So going back to that first 3-month block where you had the passing focus, like on the daily, what did that look like?
I was there an hour before training and an hour after, for sure. And that was consistent. Like first one to be there, last one to leave, and just really be working on like everyone knew it was like the pass. And people who jumped in, they would want to pass with me. They'd showed me their tricks and techniques. And then it's like, once I got it, then I could replicate it. And then it was just like repetition of the perfect replica, and I didn't like, none of those mediocre or crappy throws counted. It was like, I'm going to get like 100 perfect throws. They didn't have to be in a row because I was like giving myself freedom to like explore and freedom to figure out different techniques. But once I got it and it was successful, I was like, stop there. Like just continue. Then I like zoned in on that. Yeah. Okay. So this is what I do. It's really helpful. I here's my guide hand, here's my follow through, here's my X over. That's where my power comes from. And it was asking questions to people.
Your X over?
Yeah, like
Oh, crossover.
Crossover. Yeah, crossover.
Yeah.
See, it's like I'm speaking a different language. And that's great. I'm unique. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, so that it had a lot to do with asking questions to people, like, right, you're showing me, but what are you feeling? Like, are your fingertips rolling off that? Because people say, all right, hold the ball here, push like you're rolling a bowling ball, or like that. To me, like, okay, I've never pushed a bowling ball like out of my hands like this. What is that supposed to feel like? And really getting detailed into the imagery of how does that feel? And when someone says shoulder contact, okay, cool, like, go through the person. Okay, well, what does that feel like? It feels like you're putting all your pressure, like, and so those are the questions that I was more curious about. And then once I got a successful tackle or a successful pass, I just tried to memorize that and in pursuit to just continue to have that be consistent.
Yeah. It's
but
been
it takes a lot of time.
A great thing that the muscle memory, and I feel like rugby, we're so quick just to give someone a ball and say pass, whereas I think if we have a real understanding of like doing stuff without the ball, and I work with a few halfbacks on just like how to, like, without a rugby ball, like, go in and just imagine you're passing. Okay, let's focus on your legs loading up so we can use that energy, staying low, keeping your upper body down. So it's really cool to hear you talk about the feel. How did you progress to running full speed in the sevens game and having to pass? I'd imagine that got ugly pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. It was an effort to try to play on the field without those skills. And then there was an effort to sit on the bench and watch. I got an opportunity. It wasn't working for the team because, I mean, this is on tour, on the circuit.
Yeah, wow.
And, I have never played rugby before, and I'm playing the Kiwis, and I'm in China, and I'm like, and it's just like trial by fire. And if you want to be here, you'll be proficient and get there. And that was it. It wasn't like someone's telling you great job at a club level and like, we're going to continue to work these things. It was very much like, if you want to be on this team in the next 3 months, you will be on that field.
A question on that. I saw it, and it might have been earlier. I don't even know when the highlight was from, but you made a cover tackle on Portia Woodman, and I wonder if you knew anything about Portia, because we all know how devastating she is. But were you just making a tackle on a girl, or did you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of that, like the part of in that one specifically, I knew of Portia. For me, it's like, if you have to respect every opponent. Like, it was almost like every opponent is Portia. That's how I see it. And so it's like, if you're going to, execute this, then why not think it's the best player in the world, or why not, practice against the best player in the world? And so this was a moment for me. Like, I think I don't remember it being like a big deal. Like, I was playing rugby. I needed to cover this tackle. But, afterwards you think like, oh, that was great because it was Portia. And it's like, no, it was great because you covered your teammate, Yeah. So, but I think there is a sense of like, you're touching upon something that I'm really passionate about, which is like respecting everyone. And I think that's something that rugby is so beautiful about, is like, everyone, every shape and size, all of that, they're all, included and respected in my eyes.
Seems like there's such a good vibe in the sevens team at the moment in the US, and I want to kind of finish up the chat on that. So we'll come back to that. When you got into your kicking, obviously, firstly, can you just explain how far you got with soccer in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. I played at when I was 14. I was the first Alaskan female to make the Olympic development program, which is, we call it ODP in America. And it's basically a pathway to the Olympic team. And every year you try out in your state, and then the state goes to regional level, and then the regional level goes to a national level. And then that is like a 25 player pool of the national level. And so I was the first Alaskan to make it from the state to the regional to the national level. And that was for when I was 14 through like U20.
Yeah.
And then when you're in like U20 camp, so that was every year, participating in that from the 17th to, so it's like 25 of the best players every year until, 20 years old. And then from there, and even if you're younger and you're a prodigy, there's so many people that come, straight from the U17 to the national team, or, straight from U18s or U20s to the national team. And so it was a dream, like you get called up, to participate in an Olympic training camp. And I made it to the U20, I think 22 level. And then they asked me, I remember Ben Smith asked me, hey, will you commit fully to soccer? Like these girls here that are training on this national team are training 365 days a year. You're training half of that. The other half, like, we need. And I remember thinking long and hard, and I was like, I'm just about to jump into college. I don't want to give up hockey. It's a passion of mine. I always had this dynamic, duo going with soccer and hockey. So, and then that was the last conversation. I never got called up from then. So it wasn't like a devastating, like where I got cut from hockey. It was simple, like, thank you for being a part of this team, and your due diligence and being proficient at soccer. But we have a lot of people that are behind you that want to give 365 days. Yeah. And that was, to me, that was like commendable. Like I really appreciated that feedback. Yeah. And then sticking with hockey was a choice that I did, and, made a national championship team, and, a pretty damn good Olympic pursuit. And, that's where I'm at. And then it led me to rugby. So, all of it was meant part of the process. But yeah, I played with the U22 national team, and toured in Germany, Denmark, cool. And so I won the jersey a few times. It's awesome.
Yeah. So you love it. So you got through 3 months of passing, 3 months of focus on contact, and then you got up to this thing that you really were excited about, which was kicking a rugby ball. How'd that go?
My gosh, it was hilarious. Well, first I called the center line. I was like, okay, guys, like I'm going to kick left off the face-off, which is a hopper. And everyone was laughing. They were dying. So this is my first time kicking in a game. And they're like, Kelter, like, we'll meet you at the face-off. And I'm like, okay, guys. I didn't even realize it until like 3 games later that they were like just completely making fun of me. But it was awesome. At first, Rick was kind of teaching me this way of holding the ball sideways and dropping it like this and then getting underneath it, because that was more like a drop kick in soccer. And so I just like started like bouncing the ball completely funny, like not on its like end over end, like sideways, like on the fatter part of the ball. Yeah. And he was like, I saw this one guy just kick it straight in the air, like, and get underneath it and catch his own kick. Like, and that was like my image in my head, like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I was like, all right, so maybe height's advantageous. Okay. Like, let's learn how to kick the ball high. And I was doing it sideways. And then I don't remember who it was, but one of my teammates came over and she's like, Alev, nobody does that on the circuit. Like, nobody kicks the ball sideways. Like, that is not something that I would even advise you even learning. Like, that seems so ridiculous. And I was like, okay, well, then what do you advise? And then she's like, and then, I think Hannah Lockwood came over, and I think she was helping me with, dropping the ball with 2 hands and having it go end over end. And people were just super willing to come over and share, like, I'm not the best kicker, but this is how I learned how to drop the ball, and it was just multiple people's perspective that I could just say, well, Rick was onto something about the height and about it being in the center of the field. Hannah was on it about releasing at the same time. And then, again, Jill was probably like, I don't care if you make good contact with it, as long as it goes 10, it's good. Like, it's a lot of people's perspectives into one, like, jumble of like, all right, well, if I want to be on the Olympic team, I'm going to be the best kicker in the world, or best kicker, in America. And then, then it went to, I have, pursuit of being one of the best in the world, like seeing how, it was on the circuit, like let's do this, like, let's commit, go 100%.
Yeah.
But that's where it started.
I love the height thing, and I definitely see the value. So you may have seen it. I quite often get people to train with a soccer ball or a volleyball, just something that gives you that nice bounce feeling.
Yes.
And just learn to kick up through the ball.
Yeah.
Like, how have you kind of learned how your skill of kicking can really help the team? Like, it must be so satisfying when you guys regather a face-off.
Yeah. And a face-off, which is like not even a kicking term either. It's like it's a hockey term. But I thought a lot of it, in my first impression of the kicking, was that there was going to be so many different aspects of the boot I used, of my foot. Like, in soccer, if you want to chip a ball, you use the inside of your foot and you weight it, back. So it has backspin. So it drops right outside the defender, and so I was a center midfielder. So I was distributing, and it's similar to, like a playmaker. And so weights of pass, like this also probably helped with learning passing. I learned my whole life to set people up, to feed the perfect ball to the forwards breaking through the defensive line, or to give an in-swinger off of a corner kick to people heading the ball into the net, and so you have this way of seeing the line of the ball and the flight of the ball. And I think that's where I was like, okay, what's equivalent in soccer or in rugby to like, a weighted chip kick, or that would be like the grubber through, and like what, and so just like trying to make these correlations of what I knew I was decent at and how could I translate that? And, I'm starting to play now with like, the spiral kick and different other things that I just really wanted to get proficient at, what was the team needing? And then when can I have freedom and grow that, and the team really just needed a consistent 10 kick. It didn't matter where it was, as long as it was consistent, that was okay. And so you as a team, you pick, your spots around the field. And so just like working with that, but yeah, it was the drop first, because again, if I can't drop the ball, I'm not going to make good contact with it. It won't feel good. And like in that point, I knew that was holding me back from making contact, which was, this awkward ball, like dropping sideways, when you come from a completely, round thing to something awkward like that. No, it was the drop. And then from there it was, making contact of the ball without the drop. So having someone hold the ball like at their knee and me just like making contact, like practice the swing. And then it was contact from there. Because if I didn't know how that swing was supposed to feel, where that ball is supposed to hit where on my laces that ball was supposed to hit, then I couldn't visualize as the ball was like going down.
These
that was extremely helpful.
This is so good. Like, you get me so excited when you talk about like weight of pass, setting other players up, the gift of a timing, all of it. Like, there's so much in that crossover. I'm wondering if you could kind of explain about, I'm sure it'll help people, the difference in your drop kick between when you are trying to get that 10-meter kick and then also when you're taking conversions from wide out.
It's timing of the drop. So whereas the conversion, I can drop the ball a little lower and my speed of my swing is faster. It's the complete opposite with the
Do you think you drop the ball lower or you get on the ball quicker?
I would say like the drop is the same. Nothing changes from the drop, but it's the speed of my pendulum. And I'm
speed of pendulum. Stop it. Listen to it. So good.
I don't know. You don't think about it like that? I'm like,
I 100% think about it like that, but just to hear you explaining stuff like this is so good. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, so I think about it as like that. So if I need to go distance, I need the speed to have it. But I also know that my drop, I have to be more relaxed to go distance to get a bigger speed. I can't be super rigid. And it's the same with the center kick. But I can get away with like being a little bit more tense in the center kick. But yeah, I have to be relaxed. That drop has to come out. The contact with the ball to the ground has to be perfect for me to hit like, a kick outside the 5. And so there's a lot of emphasis on, not running up to the ball, like having that drop be very, very specific. And then with the center kick, it's really a play with the swing, your pendulum. Like it's awkwardly long. The ball drops so high and you have to wait so long. That's like it's like not normal. I was gonna say uncanny, but like it's not normal. And then you kick underneath it. Like, and then for me, like I practiced before the swing, before even making contact with the ball, it was the drop and saying now when it was at the apex of the drop. So like the height of that drop saying now, because that's when I would swing. Now, yeah. And just seeing it be like, okay.
One more example of the now.
What?
Give me one more example of the now.
Now. There you go.
So good.
Yeah. So and then that's when the swing came through. Is that I could already see when I was supposed to smack it.
That it makes so much sense to me because you're right. When you are trying to get that nice height on the kick, like you just have to be patient. And I feel like trust in your ball drop, Brock. So if you trust your ball drop to be straight, then you're trusting it to raise up. I think people try to get on the ball too quick because they're not too sure, but then we can't get height and hang time.
That trust in your ball drop, I think, is the key.
And why I think the soccer ball technique of training with that, because you're going to get that true bounce and learn to wait to get to the apex, the now, and just train the body to wait. It's really, really cool to hear. After your kickoff, where do you drop to? Do you continue into the front line on defense, or?
It depends. If we win the ball, just try to fill in. I'll go to sweep if we lose the ball.
The one other thing I wanted to ask you about is just transition play. I think it's one thing that you probably learnt really well from ice hockey, soccer, is that changing of position. Did you feel like you picked that up straight away because of those sports?
Yeah, I had a lot of correlation with the defensive hockey and like skating backwards and then having the transition forward. Yeah. A lot of that just came with connecting when play is chaotic in hockey. It's called dump and chase. You dump the puck into the zone and then you go and chase it. And like and that gives you time for people to change on and off the ice, or it gives you time to reset. So I don't know what the equivalent would be in rugby, but maybe like, kicking away possession in like a 15s game to like re-strategizing how we're going to defend, like relieving pressure. Yeah. So that would be, I would say that was a good, but in sevens, I mean, you don't necessarily kick the ball away to relieve pressure. But it would be like setting a ruck, like a strong ruck to like, we call it a Rambo, like it'd be like Ramboing, resetting. Yeah.
Dump and chase. I really like that.
Dump and chase. Yeah. And that can be like, I'm always like about metaphors in your life too. Like, what are you chasing? What's going on? When are we changing perspectives? But I think that I don't even remember where we were going with that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I love it. This whole podcast, it seems like when it comes to these skill things and when it comes to learning, you actually allow yourself to become really obsessed with it and go into detail. I see so many people that just kind of half-ass it, but it sounds like you really just allow yourself to dial in and become obsessed.
Yeah, I think there's a catharsis to the amount of like, it's almost like a meditation. And when I started to see it as, and it started.
What does that word mean?
Catharsis. Like it's cathartic, like it's relaxing.
Right.
Like it's meditative. It started with a pact I made with myself when I first was learning to tackle. I was worried that I was going to be like too aggressive. And I think that that's probably from like past trauma or, you know, aggressive or abusive things that have happened in my past. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to like come out? Am I going to be this monster, this animal? Like, I'm ready to not like tap into this. And I remember like having a conversation with Peter Haberl, our sports psychologist. And he was like, well, when you played boys hockey, like, were you pissed when they like wouldn't hit you or like wouldn't tackle you because you were a girl? Like, I was like, yeah, like I didn't feel respected by them when they did that. Like, I'm one of them. Like, come on. And like, I can take it. And he was like, isn't that like the same thing that's happening right now? Like, are you not respecting your teammates by not giving 100%? And that light bulb just like changed my life, changed my perspective to things like, oh, I want, like, if I'm going to be the best in the world, I'm also going to like show them the best in the world and to provide them, the defense, that's going to represent the best in the world and, attack them with the best intentions, like the best in the world. And that was like out of respect, not out of, I want to hurt you or this is aggressive or this is violent. It was like, I want you to be the best version of yourself and I'm going to give you the best.
Yeah.
And so skills just went with that. That was to me like, in a game that's, a lot of contact, this is a moment where you can just like relax, just like feel like in tune with your body and your movement and like control it. Like, the game is like all about like adapting and reacting. And this was something I think I found like serenity in, was like the meditative quality of like learning a skill.
Yeah, that is such great advice, and what a great way of explaining it about when you were playing ice hockey with the boys, like feeling disrespected, and isn't that the same thing? Because I mean, it's so common because even in the teams that I coach, when it's an in-house session and the girls are going against each other, like you ask for full intensity, but you can see that they're just taking it easy on their mates and they're not going too hard. So I think to have players in the teams are like, that's not good enough. Like, we're disrespecting ourselves with actions too.
I mean, that's awesome. A constant conversation always. I feel like it's not a bad thing to have people care for their teammates, like that's also like, you want to, like, there's a fine line between like flirting, like, okay, cool, like, yes, you respect each other, you don't want to hurt each other, and you want people, to be ready to go. But there's another like ounce of that says, okay, how much am I giving of myself? Am I actually providing them the best look to what's going to be on the circuit? And am I challenging myself to get better? I think that the first one is mediocrity. Like, we can get by doing this, but then we might be challenged on the circuit, or we might be facing something that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. I love it. So just to finish up, I've spoken with Abby Gustardis.
She's amazing.
Full of energy. I've spoken with you, and just from the outside looking in, it feels like the group over there's got some good things happening when it comes to culture and the vibe. And so much of the US story, the NBA, NFL, even over here with COVID and stuff, was like the team that can kind of come together and cope with everything is going to be the team that takes it out. How are things at the moment? What have you guys sort of talked about, put in place about the Olympics next year?
Yeah, the Olympics next year, I mean, that whole conversation in itself is, uncertain. And what we wanted to focus on is our commitment to each other, commitment to our culture. And, USA Rugby hasn't been on the circuit a long time. Rugby hasn't been played in America very long. And that alone showed us that we needed to, build a culture, create something that we're proud of, and that's something we can buy into. And, we say, like, we're creating a brave culture. We're courageous, we're adaptable, and diverse. I think that's something so beautiful about Americans, is that we come from all walks of life, and we use that to uplift and empower other people. And truly embracing that, truly asking, our teammates, what do we want to stand for? What do we want? That's what we've been doing in COVID. And also, how are we going to live this out? We want to be a team of service. We want to be a team of leaders. What are we doing for our communities? What are we doing right now? Even when the world stopped, how are we impacting other people's lives? That's what we're focusing on right now. And, on top of that, we have Brownie, who's an amazing coach, Chris Brown, and Emily Bidewell, who's helped turn this program, around and is such an amazing, servant leader. That's one person that leads by example and is always inspiring us to go deeper into our Brave culture. Mm-hmm. And, having those folks like Brownie, Em's leading the culture, the Brave culture. We have, Peter doing our sports psychology. And then we have, Brownie, who's saying, this is actually the standard of excellence. Having a conscientious mind, detail-oriented mind that's saying, this here, you watching Huddle, you clipping yourself, doing these things, that's a gold medal performance. Like, that's every day. You don't have to, because I think a lot of us were like, oh, we're not playing. Like, how can we rate our gold medal performance? And it's like, rugby is just a representation of life. And what you're putting into those games is definitely a direct representation of how you're living your life. And if you're only giving this much and you're not paying attention to this detail and this deal, look how many things you miss, And so again, like, there's been blessings, so many blessings that have come from, this time to reflect, transition, pivot, whatever it may be that we need to do. It's given us an opportunity to connect and come together, but also to reevaluate what's working and not working.
Yeah. Mate, you're on another level. I love it. It's really cool to hear you explain this stuff, and yeah, it's so cool. I'm really excited to see how things play out, especially in that, especially with the Olympics next year. So keep doing what you're doing. That's us for the podcast. Thank you so much.
Peter, thank you. What a fun chat. Thank you.
It was awesome to get through that stuff. I know that it will. I know that your personality will probably in 2 hours' time be like, what did I even say? Like, was I good?
I feel like that's my whole life. I'm like, I'll walk away from the conversation being like, I should not have said that.
But
it's humbling, Peter. It's humbling. Thank you for putting me on blast. And yeah.
It's good. I want to tell you that you did add value. You did explain yourself extremely well, and it's the one thing is, you mentioned about the UFO, and you've got no proof. You've also mentioned that you can kick it from 40 meters. You've got no proof, so.
Yeah, I'll get your tees out there, and I'll show some folks those kicks. But
I just want to see a 40-meter kick, so that we all know that it happened.
Yeah, there's also proof too. Like, I think I'm gonna start some master classes, some rugby kicking master classes, and USA Rugby I think is gonna sponsor some of those, and they'll be free for I think education is so beautiful when it comes to you showing up and just needing to show up and not having to find money or pay for it at the beginning. And for me, that's really important, that people will just get the knowledge at least, and then they can work on crafting their skill. So I would love to connect with you when that goes out. And, if you're out there wanting to learn, some kicking styles from me, stay tuned. But I'm excited and
100%. Yeah. So are you guys putting that in place at the moment? Like that'll be happening?
Yeah. I was having a chat with Emily, about, what the restraints are from USA Rugby and licensing and all that stuff. So, but it looks like it's going to be a free event from USA Rugby, and it'll be over Zoom, so we can get a bunch of people on there and just have a kicking class, and like, let's kick it.
We'll see. That's awesome. I really know that that's going to be so valuable, especially if you're anywhere near that cool. I know that you'll add a lot of value. So that's us. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Have a great day.